love you to be a part of the conversation. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. And we're streaming live on our YouTube channel as well, Smooth981. Don't forget to subscribe. You can even put a comment on there. The analysts are in. Lakunle and Devoe, good morning and Merry Christmas.
Good morning, President Zibby. Good morning, Omas. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday.
Yes, new day, new week. What can we say, world? Welcome. A cool Black Christmas.
It's read from where I'm sitting.
Nice, nice.
So let's begin with Devoe. For once, I thought probably you would disappoint me by not having the cool, but you saved it there for effect by putting the cool Wednesday in it. And so let's get to the Punch newspaper with this headline screaming black, and of course, it's dripping with blood all over it. It says outrage as Plateau massacre claims 150 lives and over 10,000 displaced. That's coming on Christmas Eve. Speak to us about this. Why is the Plateau boiling all over again? And what can we do to stop these figures from just being numbers and then names and respectful lives?
That's the tragedy of this story. And I think, like I said, a cool Black Christmas. Um, you'll understand what I mean by that at the end. Once again, as usual. And it's unfortunate to have to say as usual because in this country we have gone through frequent bouts of breakdowns of law and order, especially where security is concerned, to the extent that we use the word insecurity more than even the word security. And as usual, let's call it for what it is because we're moving into a new year. And with a new government in place, we don't expect to continue doing the same things, expecting the same results. But here we are again, experiencing a breakdown of law and order, a terrorist attack, and that's what it is. And you know that terrorism these days, we must force the government to delineate it for all these crimes of terror on the Nigerian people, especially innocent people, be it by way of banditry, be it by way of insurgency, be it by way of kidnapping, be it by way of armed robbery. Um, um, it's another killer herdsman attack that took place in Plateau State across Christmas Eve into Christmas, where about three villages in the Boko local government area, Kefas, Malai, were attacked by these terrorists. There's no point calling them bandits or killer herdsmen, who unleashed mayhem by burning down the villages. And just by the time, I think yesterday the count was at 50 from the governor. Today, the chairman of the community of peace observers in Boko local government said about 100 people were killed. And that's even the count based on those that were given the mass burial. For those who haven't been discovered, there are pictures, there are videos across the social media, especially the one of a mother who took the death for to save her baby who was crying on her back, seeing the mother in blood. Really, does that child grow up believing that this is a country or that this country deserves to be patriotic about? Now, it took a long while, a few hours, for the presidency to even respond because, yes, he came into Lagos to celebrate. And unfortunately, I call it unfortunate because I don't expect national tragedies to be taking place. And those who are in the positions of leadership, like governors, gather themselves to the president's house on a courtesy call. It just does not go down well. I don't think that makes. If they use that forum to address this matter, I would have even given them a plus. But here they are coming to make a Christmas miracle when citizens, about over 150, have been slaughtered. And the worst part is, while we're discussing the citizens, the military also, who had spoken that following the presidential response by the media aid, that they should go out and arrest the killers of those involved in this massacre, said that yes, they would do it. But isn't that a tape that we've heard almost for the past 10 years? After every killing or massacre, we now hear the usual. You don't even have to write it anymore. You can just play it. That would like to condemn what has happened. I don't want condemnations anymore. I think it's time in this country we take our own security serious. I mean, some ex-military generals have even said that the military could have been colluding in some form or the other. Because why is it that they're able to carry out such large levels of terrorism, of slaughter, of mayhem, and yet we don't? How many have been caught? What has happened to the security architecture in the whole of Plateau? Now, what I would say is this: it's not just a rant. The Plateau issue is literally 100 years old. For those who understand Nigerian history, it started way back and forth in terms of land grabbing. It moved to a lot of religious differences, and then ethnic intolerance taking place. Now it's morphed into this open grazing issue of where some pastoralists believe that the usual grazing land has been overrun by farmers, etc. and co. Now, how long will we continue giving a different name to the same problem? Look, lives do matter, and until we start to because the truth is, if these farmers and villagers start taking up arms to defend themselves, what kind of society are we going to have? But I really do wish, because I don't want to flame those tendencies, but just like we did in the Boko Haram days, when they were attacking religious churches, and some good-willing Muslims and Christians had to come together to protect churches. These people in Plateau need to wake up to protecting themselves, because this has happened one time too many. And just like you mentioned that when I said a cool Christmas, I just want to land on that. And you said it's red over here. It's all for one, one for all, meaning that it's not affecting us here in Lagos. Does not mean that we are not going to scream. Does not mean we're not going to take action, because it's our own country. It's not only when it affects us that we begin to act on this.
All right. Let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. You could also tweet at Smooth981. We're moving on to the headline. And this one is coming from Vanguard. No fewer than 30 persons have lost their lives in an explosion at an illegal oil tapping point in Omoku in Ogba Egbemandoni local government area of Rivers State. Lakunle?
Just before we came on, I was trying to get my bearing correctly where Omoku is in Rivers. And of course, it's a place I know, and I know of all the piping and oil activity that goes on around there. Now, looking at this report, Sunday morning, the day before Christmas also, while the one in Plateau is maybe something out of the control of people that were killed, unfortunately, but this one is self-inflicted. So people gather and go to a pipeline and break it open, or as this report says, he used the two words. They allegedly broke a pipeline belonging to a multinational and scooped with the jerry cans and buckets. We're going to use the same poverty excuse for that. That's because people are poor, they're looking for a means of livelihood, they see oil, they want to do that at the risk of their lives, right? 30 people. Again, what value do we as humans, as Nigerians, attach to what they call self-preservation, to the human life, our lives ourselves? You see people jump across the express road where there are pedestrian bridges. You see us do a lot of skip traffic lights when it says red, and so on and so forth. What value do we attach to our lives ourselves? We go further down the report again to look at, it says that the suspected thieves were trying to light mosquito coils. That means that it's at night and they were going to be there for the long haul. So the questions then
They were health conscious.
Exactly, that they wanted to prevent mosquitoes from attacking them in their camp. That means that there's possibly a camp around the pipeline where they do this on a daily, right? So if that is what the case is, the suggestion in this report that the pipeline is an abandoned one can never be true. It means that whether it's fuel or crude still flows in that pipeline. and somebody knows, and that's why there's a camp there, or that even if it is abandoned, somebody knows and says, look, I will pass a few hundreds of barrels through this thing at so time. Go there and go and do it. We can begin to pick holes in this report and be having suggestions as to what is happening in this thing. Then the chairman of the Niger Delta Youth Movement in that local government says that he condemns it as usual. Our aftermath, whatever, it condemns oil bunkering. We are calling on security agencies. We are transferring responsibility again. You know, security agency too will transfer responsibility back to the people, right? So if they know the people who do this, how about reporting them to the police? Because the man says that they have tried to discourage their youth from doing this thing. So it means you know them or you have an idea who they are. How about reporting them to law enforcement? Or are you confirming to us that law enforcement is handicapped either by training, by capacity, or by complicity in the matter? We can begin to go on and on and look at those things. But the most important thing in all of this, again, goes back to where I started from. What is the value that each Nigerian attaches to self-preservation? Those things that will keep you alive, that you will live a normal, natural. Granted, people die age 1, age 2, 40, 90, 100. But what are those things that premium that we attach to our lives to make us live that normal life, whether it's 40 or 100? So that comes to the fore. The excuse of poverty does not mean anything when we discuss this thing. The injury to the persons, the cost to the government, the cost to the families of those people. There's so many aftermaths that you think of that you see that the buckets and jerry cans they are using is not worth this thing at all. We're going to also say that there's a public service announcement to our oil and riverine areas where all this pipeline runs through and other places where refined products pipeline runs through. Please and please stay away from these things. It is hard for everybody already as it is. Don't make it harder for the country. Don't make it harder for yourselves.
Now, with regards to this oil bunkering, which is of course illegal, after some of these people who are injured, thoughts and prayers, those who lost their lives, should they be in some way made to face the law after they have recovered? Because
I think it's an option because there must be consequences for everything you do, right? Yes. Now, if the governor, for example, does not go to the hospital where these guys are to visit and say "Pele" to them, somebody you notice by the end of this week, somebody will say the governor is insensitive, right? So there's a cost to the government. But because we know of the complicity at every level, there's a suggestion of complicity rather at every level. So who is, whether the cat is black or white, who is going to catch the mouse?
Well, the truth is, this is like the challenge of the shotgun treatment in the hospital. By law, by constitution, you're meant to treat any human, any Nigerian. After the treatment, if you have fallen or violated the law, you'll face the law, you'll face the consequences straight. That's even where you see them come and lock the person right there on the hospital bed, that you're going nowhere after you've been treated.
All right, so we see your messages coming through. Please keep them coming. We'll take them on the other side. This is Freshly Pressed, and it continues shortly.
Freshly pressed, Abby. When are we going to start enjoying juice? Said it's freshly pressed. When are we going to start enjoying juice for this episode?
You're not allowed to have drinks in the studio, Devoe.
No, but you guys are streaming so that we can,
Maybe if we got a good deal with a sponsor, we
drive
would
the
consider
experience.
that. That's
So
true.
what are you doing about getting a sponsor?
I will speak to the marketing
this
team.
is
No, we
fresh-
have a sponsor for this, but I'm just saying, like,
Chivita.
yeah. Don't call their names.
Oh,
Live
sorry.
stream. They need to bring their money and show
They're right
working.
here.
So
And
so you may just even if you don't drink it, it may not even be the real thing.
No,
Just
I beg,
put a
ask me,
cup-
there's nothing
just put
fake,
a
oh,
cup
we're
that
not-
suggests
Oh,
that there's
okay.
juice inside of the table.
That's true how they do in movies, right?
Yeah,
That's
just
true.
put on the thing that suggests that there's a drink in it,
Because of
and
the
I can carry it and
equipment,
pretend
you
that
have
okay, I'm drinking.
That's
The
true.
real thing.
Maybe branded cups from a
Yeah,
No, we're
something.
not faking it here. The real thing,
Fake it till you make it.
so that it's freshly pressed.
Oh. All right, we're on in about 10 seconds.
ARM, let's face tomorrow together. My name is Alpha. Grab a cup of coffee and chill. This is the smooth breakfast.
ARM, invested in your tomorrow.
Still freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. Devoe and Lakunle still here, and we're picking up the local headlines this morning. But before we get down to the next paper, which is waiting for Devoe's attention, we'll get to the messages as we see here. Pastor Dako's message comes up saying, killing of hundreds of people, whether on Christmas Day or not, is totally unacceptable, even though 1,000 falls by the side and 10,000 by the right side. All this bloodthirst, where it goes on to say, I will not know peace for making people go through these times, and he leaves it with a prayer also. Then comes up, I've got Idima Puza's message. The Christmas massacre in Plateau is a real embarrassment to the federal government, and they would always make statements and pay lip service until it happens again. Nothing is permanent, always down to stop further killings in the future. It's high time local policing, aka community policing, is introduced in Nigeria to stop the increase in killer banditry all over the land. That's Idima Pusa's message. And Tony has a message from Ikeja. Plateau State is such a beautiful place. A serious country would be growing and exporting roses and other exotic flowers, and name the fruits also, throw it in there. It's such a wonderful place, attraction for Europeans. I've been there severally, and I would always love to spend my family holidays there. I'm saddened by the killings and land grabbings going on there. The people must wake up to defend the land. After all, many of these people are in the military. What are they waiting for? That's what he says there. So we'll come back to the messages. Just keep them coming as we go over to Devoe to help us make sense of this one from the Daily Trust. Rising food prices, declare state of emergency. Expert tells federal government, and you can fit this into one of the comments made, linking just how strategic it is if we are serious people. So speak to this. How many emergencies must we declare before on agriculture, food in the country to get results?
Well, let me answer that straight. The country itself is in a state of emergency because nothing is working as it should. And that doesn't mean that everything is the negative. When the banking sector is making profits and the real sector is negative growth calculations, that's also a problem because the wealth must be distributed equitably, equally. Everybody must eat and smile. Now, remember, we're dealing with an economy that has been termed in some places as a poverty capital of the world, okay? That every 10 seconds, someone is falling into that. And we have about 150 million people multidimensionally poor. Because remember, that figure was given before the removal of subsidy and the harmonization of the FX prices. So nobody has calculated that what happened. Because as I put it, as I summarize it for those who don't understand numbers, those who had something have less. And those who had less before have nothing right now. Now, an expert, Miss Abimbola Adeyemi, was speaking at a food expo in in Ogun State, where she was speaking to the fact that the many years neglect to the agriculture sector has led us to this point whereby we're experiencing unbearable increase in the agricultural sector. Now, NBS puts inflation figures at an all-time high of 28.5%. Well, the truth is, that's just a number, because if you go to the market, if we're looking at a cross between May and this December, I think it was in The Guardian yesterday, it was showing you the rise. In some cases, rice had gone up by 150% from about 33,000 to about 70 kg for 50 kg bag. Beans moved from 29 to about 50. Carton of oil, palm oil, also moved to about 30% increase between just 1 year. Carton of noodles moved up by about I think about 15%. Now, the point here is this: people are having to pay unbearable prices just to stay alive. Now, if rice has gone up to 70K, the multi-dimensional poor obviously are not the ones buying that rice. Now, that's why noodles is on that list. And you know that noodles has literally become the de facto staple food in Nigeria, aka Indomie. Now,
You can get the brands in here now.
sorry, it's not a brand.
Noodles.
It's
Just
how
say,
it's
let's
some
say with
people don't.
noodles.
Some
Let's
people
stick
don't.
with noodles.
Yeah,
then.
some people don't know what noodles is, right? Now, noodles is not meant to be served just like that. It's meant to be served with a protein. But because beef, chicken, fish have now gone beyond the reach of most citizens, they have to buy eggs, and one egg is at 100 naira. So you have a family of four splitting one egg. Now, how does that help our nutritional crisis? It is a state of crisis that the government must take urgent attention to. And I'll break it down. You have the primary production. We've not done much. We've been talking about subsistence farming. Subsistence farming is planting food at the back of your house. How will that lead to exports? We talk about processing, which is where Nigeria has an opportunity not only to create jobs, but to create additional income for our revenue. Already, agriculture is doing 25% to the GDP. Then you talk about trading. Literally, with an import of over a trillion, right? We only exported about 200 million US dollars per annum, whereas we were importing literally 80% of what we needed. Now, the point here is this: this is a homework for this government. Agriculture does supply jobs. It needs to be paid attention to properly. A state of emergency, yes, that's the only thing left to be done, so that the proper attention is given to what will enable us not only to feed ourselves as a nation, but to export and make money for the country. And I end on this note: the Black Christmas was not just the killing of 150 individuals in Plateau. Many Nigerian citizens could not feed themselves either on Christmas Day or on Boxing Day. Let us not forget, even those of us who attempted to share for others that didn't have. The bulk of Nigerians are wallowing in hunger, wallowing in lack of opportunities for them to be able to create a better life for themselves. This is the state of affairs of a country of over 200 million people.
All right, let's move on to the nation. The Northern Elders Forum has called on the government to prioritize policies that would stimulate economic growth, reduce unemployment, and also alleviate poverty. They've also urged Nigerians to unite in prayer for improved security, a strengthened economy, and a more cohesive society.
Okay, so I'm going to go to my village to respond to this. You see, in my village, we have this popular saying that
Where's that village?
my
In
village
Cameroon.
is in Ibadan.
Okay.
So in our village, we used to say that the day the elephant dies, that day you see different types and shapes of knives. Right. Apparently, this is the Northern Elders Forum's Christmas message to the federal government of Nigeria.
Background.
And I see it in two ways. One, okay, so it's fashionable to do. Everybody does Christmas messages, greetings and all that. So it's fine. Now, my issue with this is this. These people who call themselves Northern Elders Forum, just like every other place in Nigeria today, we have one group or the other claiming to represent the interest of the people in that place. What value have they exactly added to those places they claim to represent? Who and where was the meeting held that said, okay, you, and you are the ones who will represent us as this forum? That's one level. The other level of it again is all of them, if you look at them across Nigeria as well, all of them, I'm not even speaking to Northern Elders Forum alone, all of them, you have them in the southwest, the southeast, everywhere. All of them at one time or the other have held political or at least one leadership position in this country. What value did they add to Nigeria at that time? If they've done those things at that time, would we be here today taking these advices from them today? So we need to look at ourselves. Okay, so look at that part of the report that says that insecurity, we should go and pray. I believe in prayer. I'm a very spiritual person as well. But I believe in prayer to the extent that the Holy Book says, tie your horse, then trust in God. We have not tied our horses. but we are trusting in God. How? God is busier with people who have tied their horses than those of us who left our horses untied. We need to be more circumspect about these things. Unfortunately, a large mass of us Nigerians will queue behind this kind of reports, this kind of people, and take it to the market, to the banks, and everywhere to go and cause more trouble because an elder said whatever. But the real issues are there for us to solve that we have not solved. It's okay to advise government do. Okay, so when you were in whatever position, what policy did you put in place that helped to solve a problem in Nigeria? What exactly that you now became the advisor today? It's easy to advise, but to actually do the work, you find them missing. What have they done since, for example, since Sunday, the killing in Plateau? What have Northern Elders Forum done? Have they helped the police? Have they gone to visit people that died? Have they donated money or relief materials to those people that got displaced? But we grandstand all the time.
All right, we race over now to pick up a few messages in as we see them here. Yinka Bolu's message is waiting, but I see a Daniel from Festac. Almost 100 Nigerians murdered on Christmas Eve, and some people are acting like it is nothing. No outrage, political propaganda at the maximum levels, no hope that the killers would be caught and prosecuted. Is this a real country? It is a black Christmas for Plateau and Christians, if not for others. Daniel's message. Yinka Bolu's message is what I'm looking at right now. It says, firstly, may the departed souls rest in peace. Addressing Plateau issue is intricate. Blaming solely the herdsmen seems unjust, as the Laity Allah has distanced themselves from these perpetrators. An alternative approach could involve declaring a state of emergency, temporarily suspending the democratic structures in the affected state and implementing military administration. When they are squeezed to the last blood, everyone will sit and act right. Then Menye's message is what we're looking at, and he says, how long will these massacres continue? Yet deafening silence from those in government, governor, and the presidency who are supposed to quickly respond. Rather, this subtle condemnation of killings, we can continue like the previous administration. Condolences to the family. Joseph Menye's message from Silver Estate, Ejibo. Gilbert Musa's message is next. It says, on the recent terrorist attack in Jos, it brings to mind the same terrorist attack in Agatu, Benue State in 2016, where villages were burnt and people killed. The question is, were the perpetrators of the Agatu killings brought to justice? The answer is blowing in the wind for us to fetch. And then I've got Ajayi Olonilua's message. It says, the tragedy of this Plateau massacre is that life has become so cheap that government just carry on business as usual without any thought for the grievous loss, even with an ordinary 1 to 3 days of national mourning. God help us. That's Ajayi Olonilua's message from Magodo. Then also we've got AB Ambo from Badagry. After the disastrous incident in the northern Kaduna some days ago that claimed over 100 lives, which according to the news was the result of the army experimenting with drones, something in his subconscious tells him that there will be an attack to settle scores for what happened in Kaduna, and the tragic Plateau massacre might just be it, the conspiracy theory though. AB Ambo's message from Badagry. And our final message is Emeka from Ikeja. On insecurity in the country, note that heaven will help those who have themselves faith without work is dead. Emeka from Ikeja. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for your messages, and special thanks to the analysts for coming through, Lakunle and Devoe. Thank you.
Thank you, President Zibby, for having us. Thank you, Mas. You have a great week.
That's it for Freshly Pressed. Do stay with us. There's a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.